Hello, I'm Christine Thorby, Director of Strategy at the Planning Inspectorate, and I'm talking to Paul Brown, who's Chair of the Planning and Environmental Bar Association, known as PEBA, about virtual events. The Planning Inspectorate has been making increased use of technology for casework for some time, but the current health crisis means that we have accelerated our plans. We want to help the economy recover, and this needs some innovative thinking on how we deal with our current casework over the next few months. Virtual events may be a good solution, and we're now prioritising these across a range of casework. But there are some very important things for us to consider to make them work. As you would expect, it's critical to the Planning Inspectorate that public confidence in appeals and examinations is upheld, that events are not downgraded, and that recommendations and decisions are fair and robust.
Christine, thank you. Like you, we're very keen to keep as much of the planning system moving as we possibly can. However, we are also firmly of the view that any steps that we take have to maintain public confidence in the system. As you will know, our members act for the full range of participants in the planning appeal process. We're not simply there for developers or appellants. We also represent local planning authorities, local residents groups, and public interest groups. And although those different parties have slightly different interests, there are two things which they have in common. Firstly, they all want to maintain the integrity of the examinations and the decision-making process. They want to make sure decisions are robust. And in that context, there are cases where it's essential to be able to test evidence by cross-examination or at the very least by some sort of inquisitorial process led by an inspector. And secondly, they all want to make sure that the decisions that are taken are legally sound. It's not in anybody's interests for inspectors to be making decisions which are then quashed in the courts because of some kind of procedural unfairness. And in those circumstances, we're pleased that the Planning Inspectorate's response to the current situation has not been to try and downgrade inquiries and hearings, unless the parties specifically agree to something like written representations, but instead that your focus has been on exploring the potential for what you've just described as virtual events. It's something that PEBA itself has been looking at. We've set up our own working group to look at how virtual events might work under the current regulations. And our conclusions are that although they may not be suitable for all cases or indeed all case types, many appeals could go ahead without compromising rigour or the ability of the public to participate.
Thank you, Paul. We recognise that PEBA have acted very quickly and kindly shared their findings with us, and the Planning Inspectorate has set up a project group who are working through each specific set of issues in a thorough and considered way, so that we consider rights, equality and access alongside the legislative requirements for each type of casework. There are also things that might assist in aiding people's participation to show how things will work on the day. We have experience of this from our existing advice notes and online videos. As Paul says, it's clear that not all cases will be able to proceed with this approach, but we're hoping to identify and pilot some virtual events for suitable cases. We will work closely with local planning authorities and those in the wider planning profession, as well as considering how we can engage effectively with interested parties to ensure communities can continue to participate in and engage fully at events. In Wales, we will ensure that people can, as now, participate in Welsh if they wish. There are two other very important factors to be considered. Firstly, the effect of the coronavirus, particularly on the well-being of those who may have caring responsibilities. We all have to work from home, there may be illness, and we don't underestimate the difficulties that this might cause to us all. And secondly, having the technology and skills to support virtual events in an equal access way.
I don't think there can be any doubt that well-being has to come first. As Chris, you've just pointed out, that's not simply a question of reducing the potential for spreading the virus. It's also about recognising that we're all working in circumstances where there are strange and new calls on our time. However, although there will be challenges in adapting to the technology, we firmly believe that it's possible. This is an area where the court system in the United Kingdom is already showing the way. Within a very short period of time, we've moved to a situation where, in many sorts of civil litigation, there is now a presumption that trials, including cross-examination of witnesses, will go ahead using video conferencing technology. Now, obviously, the planning system has got the added dimension of public participation, but in principle, we see no reason why a lot of that experience from the courts cannot be transferred across. And we really look forward to working with the Planning Inspectorate to help produce the kind of joint protocols, for example, for giving evidence and cross-examination, which will enable that to happen.
Thank you, Paul. The Planning Inspectorate will make every effort to get virtual events up and running successfully where appropriate. We can use our experience of working quickly to set up pilot schemes for inquiries, which we did successfully following the Rosewell review. So watch this space. I do want to thank Paul very much for taking time to talk to me about this. And I recall a podcast that Paul and I recorded in September 2018. And this was on best practice at inquiries. So perhaps, Paul, our next one will be best practice at virtual events. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Christine. Stay well.